3, 2, 1, end of test. King with a go.
Well, hello there, and welcome to another edition of Warbird Wednesday. My name is Fred Bell with the beret on my head. Today we're continuing down attack helicopter lane and making the most efficient way to blow things up, because that's effectively what we're talking about here. And we're running out to the end of the Russian line. We got a ways to go, but we're kind of working our way through Russian attack helicopters to the point where the stuff we have been talking about has been engaged in combat, and there have been combat losses. This aircraft is no different, this helicopter. The Ka-50, which is known as, it's a very eloquent name for a Russian, it just sounds Russian, the Black Shark. That is what they call it. The NATO code name is the Hokum, which is kind of interesting. And now there are variants today, and for the aficionados, the Ka-50 and the Ka-52. The 52 is a derivative design of the base, which is the Ka-50. I'm going to be talking about the two designs together and not separately. So, because we're kind of talking about the same thing. The difference between the two helicopters is the 50 is a single seat helicopter and the 52 is, there are some other design differences, but essentially they're the same platform. The 52 is a two-seat platform with a pilot gunner configuration. So, but before I do that, you notice the beret. Kevin, we're off track in the cultural area of how we're going to have a Russian. I don't think the Russians ever wore a beret. I don't know. You're telling me with my jacket today that it's maybe a fashion sense item for me. So I don't know, but I'm going to get the beret off and send it to the great beret in the sky. Oh, nice catch by the Kevin. Now, the Ka-50, remember, is a derivative, and we talked about the the 28 last week, the Havoc. Now, the Soviet Union, and these are, although you have Russian Federation kind of mixed in there, most of this design philosophy comes out of the Soviet bureaucracy. And remember, they were looking at what we were doing with attack helicopters, and they went, okay, we got to get serious about this. We're going to come up with comparable designs. The Mi-28, which was a very low build rate that we talked about, and what I called last week in development hell, the Ka-50 is what put the Mi-28 in development hell, because they went after this design, and I'm going to explain to you why, because there actually are some very good reasons. Now, the Ka-50 line is pretty damn innovative. I mean, if you want to talk about, we can talk about how American aircraft we're the innovators and stuff like that, but I'm going to tell you why I think this thing is pretty innovative. It is still crude in a sense that American equipment tends to be over-censored, more pack every bit of electronics into it. The Russians can't do that. There are reasons for that. They just don't have the industrial base to be able to do that. And that is what drives that build rate. They just can't knock out as much stuff because they don't have, and somebody, if you don't agree with me, argue with me in the comments, but they just don't have the tech industrial base to be able to turn these things out in the multitudes. Now, they're in a real shooting war with Ukraine, and they have reconstituted some of their losses as of the filming of this video in the beginning of April in 2024. That war is still a hot war, and the Russians have suffered horrific losses. They have suffered combat aviation losses, probably more so than anybody could realize. Some of that is to Patriot air defense systems. Some of it is to man-pad systems. The Ka-50 is absolutely susceptible to man-pad systems, shoulder-launched anti-aircraft missiles. They've lost some of the Ka-50s to MiGs, to fixed-wing aircraft, and that's a hot war. I mean, you flying any of this equipment we're talking about over there, there's a good chance you could get yourself killed. The Ka-50's first flight was in 1982. The Ka-52 first flew in 1997. You can kind of see the development hell there, as we talked about. You know what's interesting about this, and maybe there is somebody in the comment section, maybe get in and talk about why we had such long leads, because you can see it with the Mi-28 too. You have very long leads since the first flight. My thinking is that they had the Mi-24 and they were just kind of plodding along, and then you had all that hiccup with the collapse of the Soviet Union and real disruption in their supply chain. And I'm thinking that's what it is, but that's all supposition on my part. Now, the Ka-52 is called the Alligator. There you go. So a little bit different, not the Black Shark. Now, this helicopter has contra-rotating or a coaxial rotor system. It is not counter-rotating. I have gone into online fistfights with counter-rotating propellers and contra-rotating. The contra-rotating or the coaxial system, which on the Ka-52, and maybe Greg can throw up a graphic that illustrates it, is basically have two rotors and they're spinning, counter to each other. And the idea is that offsets the torque. Now, why is that a good thing? That is the coaxial system. That's a good thing because what that does is that frees up the engine power from having to drive that tail rotor, so you can get up to 30% more power that's freed up for the propulsion, for the drive system, and you're not trying to just keep the thing straight, okay? It also reduces the transmission system in the airframe so that there's less risk to damage from ground fire and things that might, if you lose this or use any of the transmission system, the helicopter's uncontrollable and you're going to crash. With this coaxial system, you don't have that. Now, an innovative thing with the coaxial system, and I think this may be the only airframe like this particular helicopter has an ejection seat. So you can actually eject out of it, and what happens is, you pull the pin, so to speak, and the system and the rotor hat gets blown off by a charge, and then you can eject out of it. The other systems like the Cobra and these other aircraft or helicopters, if you get hit and you're going in, you're spamming a can, you're riding the thing in, and come see, come saw, whatever happens. But this coaxial system, that's when I said at the beginning about what's really innovative about that coaxial system, this ejection seat. Now, the Russians claim that in the single seat version of this helicopter, it is essentially the same, the pilot load. In other words, the management load in the helicopter is similar to a fighter bomber. So that because one of the criticisms of getting rid of the gunner, so the gunner is that the pilot is overloaded, with the weapons management, system management, and everything else. The Russians counter on that with the Ka-50, the single seat line, is that's equivalent to what a fighter bomber would do. It's about managing the weapons. I don't know whether that's true or not. The thing's plugging along at about 196 miles an hour, about 200 miles an hour, so it's not super fast. And of course, with a two-seat version, then you've got more of a gunner pilot configuration. One of the things I was going to talk about in the UK and the Soviet Union, this contra-rotating system had most success. In the United States, not so much. And one of the reasons was jet engines were moving really quickly, and they just didn't feel they needed it as far as power. The Convair, the XF-Y, and the Lockheed, the XF-V, use these contra-rotating blades. And then in a helicopter, it was the H-43, the Husky, was the one that used that coaxial system. But what the Russians have really done, and I do agree with, by the way, that this is a better weapon system in terms of being really aggressive on the battlefield than the Mi-28. The big difference between the Mi-28 and this Ka-50 is the Ka-50 has pretty good sensors, and they've been lucky. Talked about sensors with the Mi-28, but the Russians have been able to stand off and really plink away, kill Ukrainian armor and armored infantry. The difference with the Alligator is it can get a little bit down, a little bit lower. It flies a little bit lower, and it has, from what I understand, a little bit better sensor package. The thing that is not to its favor is it doesn't have radar jamming capability. And it's been clear that the Ukrainians have been able to lock them up with radar-guided missiles, and the Mi-28, from what I understand, again, and argue with me in the comment section, actually has the ability to jam radar-guided missiles. The Ka-50 and the Ka-52 do not. So the Ka-50 is no stranger to combat. It has seen combat in the Second Chechen War. It fought in the Second Chechen War. As I said, it is currently engaged in heavy combat in Ukraine. And that leads me to my salute, because my salute today is very pointed. And I'm going to say something. Normally I don't get this profound, but what you don't know is we just had 3 Ukrainians here who have been in Ukraine, who walked up and were our audience, which we normally get, and have been in Ukraine within the last year, and were rapt at me talking about the Ka-50, and they're like, oh, we know about the Ka-50. So it was great. We just got kind of a little update, and but really, my salute today is the Ukrainian Army, Ukrainian Air Force, and Ukrainian combat forces. And the reason I say that is the Russian army prior to this war was considered by many to be one of the most lethal armies in the world. They had tons of armor, they have tons of specialized equipment, and they're not afraid to use it. The Russians, they fought in Syria, they fought all over the place, they fought in their own former republics, and the Ukrainians standing up and continuing to stay in there and maybe losing 150,000 of their brothers, and I've heard as many as 350,000 Russian casualties. The Ukrainians have really stood in there, and it is inspiring to see people that understand what the value of freedom is and are willing to go out and fight for it. So to Ukrainians, to Ukrainian armed forces, I salute you. And I salute you with a Pobble, P-O-B-B-L-E. What's a Pobble? Do you know what it is? A bursting bubble tea, but it doesn't look like bubble. It looks like Pobble. Very strange. Passion fruit apple made with fruit juice. It is, of course, dented and damaged, which means there could be botulism. 176 calories. The lid, this one doesn't look like it got dragged behind a truck for 3 weeks, so that looks pretty good. We're going to go ahead and pop the cork, or the can, whatever that was. There's nothing. There was absolutely nothing came out of that can. So let's see. Actually, 176 calories, but not a lot of sugar. I'm surprised. I have 43 grams of sugar. I misspoke. There is a lot of sugar. But to the Ukrainians who are fighting for their freedom, Ukrainian Armed Forces, I salute you. And by the way, that doesn't mean that I am blind to, or that we are blind to all those Russian service members that have been killed, the 350,000. This war should end. The Russians should go back to their starting point, and the Ukrainians should be able to determine their lives. And with that, I salute you. Oh, man. That is not only gone, it is completely gone. I'm going to take a second sip because that's the deal, Greg. But, where the heck did you dig this thing up? This is awful. All right, that was just enough. Hopefully I don't have to go to poison control. So the Ka-50, the Ka-52 are incredibly efficient. It will be interesting to see what happens. They have suffered pretty heavy combat losses. They built 18 Ka-50s, 196 Ka-52s. Numbers I have is that they've lost 60 in combat. So the one thing I'm going to tie a bow around this with is that this just speaks more and more to what we've been talking about. I really think a lot of these platforms are going to be automated, and what we've seen in Ukraine with drones, we're just going to see that expand to these attack helicopter platforms where they're no longer manned, because the operating environment is just becoming so dangerous that the chances of survival once you get in combat are so low, there's no point putting human beings at risk like that. So I think we're going to see all of these things go to remotely flown here very quickly. Now, if you are sitting at home and you want, this is another one of these absolutely cool aluminum, steel, whatever they are, flasks. And this thing is way cool because it has the F-117 on it, which, that's just a beautiful image. It has the aircraft, the Iraqis called it the Black Devil. That is great. It has a logo on it, which is really cool. And it has the tail flash on it. Now, the TR is for Tonopah Range. That, of course, is before the program went into the light. This is when it was a black program, or it was highly classified. So you have a highly classified drinking vessel, so much so that people may see you and interrogate you for it. So you need to get out there. Jason will make this out of highly classified materials and send it to you, and it will not show up on radar. No, that's not true. But you will have yourself a great drinking mode of drinking. How's that? There you go. There's just no place to go with that, Kevin. Now, if you came across us on YouTube and you like what you do here, which is one take Warbird videos, we don't do a lot of production. We never know when the Ukrainians are going to drop in, and we're going to be talking about Russian equipment. That was absolutely amazing. We are your place. Forward us out. Send us off to your friends. Tell people about us. Give us a subscription and a comment. The MI-28 is doing quite well on YouTube right now, and we like that. We have over 200. We have 750 videos on the channel, and they range everything from women in aviation, all of our educational programs, our Saturday programs, our veterans, first-person veterans, combat stories, which you really are going to want to watch those. We're putting those up. We have 5,000 of those that will eventually be up on the channel, if you can imagine that. But forward us to a friend. If you came across us on Facebook, same thing. Give us a like, give us a comment. I'm not afraid to be corrected, and I really we get a lot of times on the channel, we get comments from people that actually interacted with the hardware, or they were in a unit. Throw your unit up there, throw up what you did. We love the comments. We cannot do all of this. I'm in the European hangar in front of the B-25, Mitch the Witch, which is in the process of getting returned to flight. We cannot do that without your shekels. So click that link, give us a couple of bucks. We can certainly use it. Remember, the education guys are attached to this for the kids. Teach them how to fly, teach them historical interest. We have the new ed guide coming out shortly on Stealth the Sixth. So we've got our new documentary out there. That will be up shortly. My name is Fred Bell. I am the Vice Chairman of the Palm Springs Air Museum. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
3, 2, 1, end of test. King with a go.